Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Vertical Response and our Vertical Response webinar with David Neff. We're going to talk about fundraising for nonprofits. Just a couple things before we get started. First of all, the webinar will be about 50 minutes or so, and then at the end we will do Q&A. So if you think of some questions along the way, go ahead and type them into the box that you see in your GoToWebinar window, and we will be happy to answer as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the presenter keys over to David, and he will get started with our webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me today. And I will take over here and make sure you guys can see what I'm seeing. Great. So you guys, like I said, thank you very much to Vertical Response for having me here today. My name is David J. Neff, and I'm an author and digital strategy consultant. The name of the book that I just wrote is The Future of Nonprofits, How to Thrive and Innovate in the Digital Age, and that came out on Wiley earlier this year, and takes a lot of the time and experience and effort when I was at the American Cancer Society. I was at the American Cancer Society for about 9 years as the director of web, film, and interactive strategy, and got to do a lot of neat stuff around online fundraising, email marketing, and managing a lot of our web properties, getting us our first application for PDAs, if you guys remember those, prior to iPhones and Androids. We had personal digital assistants, and we did some cool stuff around that. So a long history of nonprofit service in the health field, as well as a love for all things marketing and digital communication. Today, we're going to talk a lot about online fundraising and how social media works with online fundraising. The first thing I want you guys to really get through is the overall market. How big is this market? A lot of people say online fundraising, we get it, we know it's something our nonprofit needs to do. However, people don't understand the scope of it and the money that's available out there, and what that market really looks like. So $15 billion was donated online to charity in 2009. This figure is growing phenomenally, even with the backlash of the economy and all the things going on in the United States and Greece and other countries. The figure is still growing at 30 to 40% annually. And it's projected to be a $35 billion market by 2015 for online giving. These are some of our numbers from 2009 by the folks over at Convio. Online giving grew 14% in 2009 despite the economy. An increase in gifts drove fundraising gains. Donors were still giving, but giving smaller amounts. We'll talk about that later when we get into donation form. Should you be asking for $10 online instead of $50? Should you be asking for $25 instead of $35? What's that sort of magic number that's a small gift that people want to give online? Regardless of mission, online fundraising continued to grow. We're going to talk a lot today about disaster and international relief organizations and how they're kind of outliers. So you folks on the phone know that I'm not picking on disaster and international relief organizations. You guys just kind of throw off the curve for the rest of the students taking the test. So we want to make sure that we take that into account. The good news, I think, for a lot of people on this webinar and myself and the nonprofits that I work with, is that small organizations grew faster. Organizations with fewer than 10,000 email addresses on file grew revenue by 26% and actually grew their gifts by 32%. And email, such as Vertical Response and all that they do for you guys as nonprofits, as your email providers, your house files continue to grow. The total average email file grew 27% in 2009. Which is just absolutely great. What that means for us, what that means for the folks at Vertical Response, is that people still rely on email. and people still want to hear from your organization, not solely on Twitter, not solely on Facebook, but through email. People expect email to convey these long, interesting messages about who you are and what you're doing and what's happening next, which is something a lot of times social media can't provide. So email is still a very valid thing. And like you see in this chart and this slide right here, it continues to grow. The folks at Blackbaud,
David, can I interrupt you for just a second? Some people are saying they're having a hard time hearing. If you're listening through your computer, it might be a little distorted. If you call in on a phone, you can probably hear a little bit better. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. And if I'm not talking loudly enough or something like that, just let me know that as well.
Well, I can hear you okay, but some people are saying they're having a hard time. But I'm listening through a phone, and I think that might be part of the problem.
Okay. So what we have here on this slide is the Blackbaud Index of Online Giving. So what this is basically the S&P 500 for how nonprofits are giving online. Blackbaud is a large charitable giving institution that processes a lot of donations online, and their index of online giving represents over 1,747 organizations with a combined online giving of $424 million a year. So what they've done is parse this all out, make it easy to read, make it easy to understand, and they release this graph of online giving every 3 months. So this is something that absolutely every person doing fundraising on the phone today should have bookmarked. And it's on Blackbaud's website. It's also on their Facebook page. And it kind of helps you get a feel for what the market looks like and how the market's acting. And, of course, you see some jumps in there, which, we'll explain later what those jumps are. And plus, as you can see over on the right side, they have a chief scientist. And what a cool job title that is, right?
That's a great one.
So how does end of year look? Hopefully everybody on the phone that's listening right now does end of year campaigns and does end of year giving and has at least a campaign for end of year giving. And if you don't have a campaign, you at least send out some emails asking for end of year giving. It's actually a lot larger than anybody thinks. This is from the folks at Network for Good. You can see online giving by time of year, average 2003 to 2009. 66% is the rest of the year, and 33% of online giving through Network for Good is done in December. That's an absolute shocking number. You see over on the other chart, online giving by dollars during December, and, for me, that has a lot to do with asking and what time do you ask, and do I send out my ask email for end-of-year giving on the 15th of December or the 25th or the 30th? And generally, when I've been talking to folks, we stop around the 20th. We figure people aren't listening. You can send an email, you can tweet them, you can put something on Facebook, but people are tuned out. They're with their families or at home. And what we see is almost the opposite of that. If you look at that graph, you see at the very end, online giving skyrockets on the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, and into the end of the month. So when you're thinking about a campaign this year, how late can you schedule out your ask? It looks like you should be talking to people the 20th onward, which is kind of the opposite, I think, of what a lot of us do. But there's a ton of online giving during those last few days of the year. 22% comes in on the last 2 days of December. So we've talked a little bit about the market. We've talked about end-of-year giving. We've kind of looked at some key things to keep you guys updated out there in your fundraising world. And here's some more great charts and graphs from Network for Good that explain even more of that story. Online giving by charity type for 2009. You can see what's kind of always the case, but basic needs, human services is a large part of what people give their money for. Health is in there, animals in the environment, public benefit, international, religion, and arts. are kind of the two smallest sections there. And religion and arts are always kind of two of the smaller sections. What we see over on the right, though, is a much more important chart, online giving growth. When we talk about this market share of being $35 billion and how it's growing year after year, you see it on that chart. What you see there are stair steps, and a lot of those stair steps have to do with our friends out there doing disaster relief or international relief. We can see kind of those first stair steps on that chart around Katrina. When Hurricane Katrina hit the United States, people were on TV and through email, not so much on social media back then, but saying go to our charity's website and give. And for a lot of people, that was the first time they gave online. Sure, they shopped on Amazon, they shopped on Target in 2003, they maybe bought a gift for someone on another retailer online, but they had not trusted charities to take their donations and give them online. And Katrina was the big first event where we suddenly realized it was okay to give online and that we could trust charity websites to take our money. And you see stair steps there for Katrina, Haiti, all kinds of different things, the tsunami in Asia, and you see these stair steps in that chart of sudden rapid growth in online giving due to international and disaster relief organizations. So our last point on that, this is a great infographic from the folks at USA Today, the Chronicle of Philanthropy, the Financial Tracking Service of the World Bank, and some other folks. And it has a lot to do with how money's given online and how we support folks, right? So we look at 1995, the total damage and world donations. So world donations, 14 million, total damage, 100 billion. Very hard to give online. Almost non-existent in 1995. Then, like I said, we see Hurricane Katrina. We see the Chile earthquake. We see the Asian tsunami. Asian tsunami, we really start to get it, right? We understand that we can give online. The same thing for Katrina, especially around the Haiti earthquake. You see that, and then we come to Japan. 2011 Japan earthquake and tsunami, $235 billion worth of damage, but the world donations were only $704 million as of March 29th. And normally, I'd ask people in the crowd to give me their best guess, and maybe you guys can put some of those best guesses in chat and discuss it. But the real reason behind this on why Japan was not supported as much is three main factors that have nothing to do with online giving. Number one, the media cycle for Japan was extremely short. We heard about it, and then it disappeared. Where we heard about Hurricane Katrina and the Haiti earthquake for months and months and months. And the other one is people see Japan as an equal superpower. They think that people in Japan don't need help, that they're equal to, what's going on in America, that they're equal to what's going on in China if China had a natural disaster. So that's a very interesting thought process for the international disaster folks is how do we beat that media cycle? Maybe how do we make it even easier for people to give online? Another thing I often ask folks, and I'd love to have you guys talk about this in the chat as well. Also, if I didn't say this at the beginning, my Twitter handle is @DaveIM, DAVEIAM, DaveIM. And the hashtag, if you guys want to follow along, is the future of NPOS. The future of NPOS. That's the future of NPOs. And you guys can ask questions, discuss things. Let's keep talking about it even after the webinar. But I'm @DaveIM on Twitter. And do recurring gifts happen online? That's the question I'm asking you guys. If I went to 200 donation forms today of the people that are on this call, would you be asking for recurring donations on those forms? And if not, you're missing out because recurring gifts happen a lot. And we should be encouraging recurring gifts. Always offer a recurring gift option on your giving page. Monthly giving is the most popular choice. some people might not want to give you $50 right now, but they'd be happy to give you $5 for the next 12 months. Present a compelling reason to give monthly. Talk about how it helps you sustain certain programs or it helps you achieve certain outcomes. But reoccurring gifts happen online, and you're really missing out if you don't have that on your donation form. And that's the first little bit of homework I'm going to give you guys to go home after this call, is just go and look at your donation page. And are you asking for reoccurring gifts? So we've kind of covered the high level of end-of-year giving, reoccurring giving, what the state of the union is for online giving. So how does social fit in? And, you know, we have some of our basic social media icons there, Flickr, Facebook, Twitter, even MySpace. Now, if any of you guys are still on MySpace, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to hang up the phone right now because it's just not cool anymore. No, I'm just kidding. You guys can be on MySpace as long as you want to be on MySpace. But obviously other social networks have definitely overtaken it in terms of relevance. So this is a great graph, an infographic from the folks at Forrester. Forrester estimates that $716 million will be spent on social media in 2009, growing to $3.1 billion spent on social media in 2014. That's $3.1 billion spent on social media in 2014. You see that the top Fortune 100 companies, 54% and growing are on Facebook, 50% are on YouTube and growing, 33% have RSS feeds for people to subscribe to their blogs, and that the world overall spends 110 billion minutes on social networks and blog sites. Absolutely outstanding and an incredible stat. Even more so, that equates to 22% of all time online is spent on social networks, right? And that's the person next to you in the cubicle at work that sits there and plays Farmville for 8 hours a day, or you just checking your Facebook to see what your friends are doing or to reject that weird person from high school who you don't want to be friends with on Facebook, right? That all counts towards 22% of all time online is spent on social networks. The average visitor spends 66% more time on social sites than a year ago. So it's growing and growing and growing, and it's fascinating to watch. So people are giving online, and people are giving through social media. Hopefully that's not a surprise for you guys on this call. What will be a surprise for you on this call is how often and how they're doing it. Nonprofit website is still king. More people go to your website than go to your social media. And that's true for 96% of organizations. But social media giving is growing. People asking for money on Twitter, using Facebook causes, using services like Help Attack and some of the donation forms we're going to talk about later. Even hitting that like button or share button on your vertical response funding email, that's asking on social media. That's spreading the word about your online giving on social media. So like I said, 39.7 million done through social media, through the Network for Good giving portal. So who gives on social media? Gen X and Gen Y. Jim and Jen are heavy users of social media and text-based technology. They're actually surprisingly highly motivated to give. However, they have no established habitual means for donating, and they very much rely on peer-to-peer recommendations. I see that Jim gave on his Facebook page to a certain cause. We're friends. In fact, we're really good friends. I click on it. I read the link. I leave him a message. I see that he tweets when he gives. I ask him, oh, well, what's this fund? What's this hospital you're supporting? What's this run you're taking place in? And that is the peer-to-peer recommendations that is a very big shift for all of you on the phone to make. We're very used to GuideStar judging us or the Better Business Bureau or Charity Navigator. But those institutions don't matter anymore. They really don't. You know, it doesn't matter if you have a Charity Navigator 3-star approval on your website or on your donation forms. What matters is that the people giving to you are telling other people that they're giving to you and that they believe in your cause. So we're stripping away these large institutions and going to user-driven content. What are other people who give to you saying about what you're doing? And you know what? Jim and Jen don't have habitual means for donating. And by you talking to them in social media, you having a conversation on Twitter, you getting them to have a conversation on your Facebook page, you're engaging them, and you're getting ahead of other nonprofits that they may be interested in that aren't using social media to engage them. And you can walk them into that donor funnel. And you know what? They have money. Average Gen Y gives $341 annually. The average Gen X gives $796 annually. And let's not forget our boomers and our matures and how much they give. But guess what? Jim and Jen, who you hook today by having awesome events at your nonprofit and talking to them on social media and Facebook, turn into boomers and matures down the line who are very hooked into how your nonprofit works and want to give to support the projects that your nonprofit does. Some of our problems here is the old ways of donating aren't optimized for Jim and Jen. We have these super lengthy donation forms. We're not talking to them on social media. We're still sending them mail. We're still sending them, renewal emails and renewal mails and stuff directly to other boxes when they want to be communicated in specific ways at specific times. And it's time that we as a sector wake up and realize that we need to segment. We need to have our lists talking to the right people at the right time. Otherwise, all we have is slacktivists. Slacktivists are passionate, but their passion isn't matched by donation. Slacktivists are the people who hit the like button on the email, or they hit the like button on Facebook, or they retweet something you said, but they don't attend your events, they're not in your database, and they're not subscribed to your emails. So social media and online giving come together to take action and change those slacktivists into activists. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. And a big part of that, a big part of how we're kind of setting ourselves up through social media and through traditional donation forms to fail is by not executing. We have plenty of good ideas and good intentions, but we're not executing on those. And it all comes back to how people give. There's no way for me to give on Twitter. And very likely Facebook does not take donations on behalf of your nonprofit. Now, you might have a donate page on your Facebook page, or you might embed some code, or you have a splash page. But it all comes back to your donation form. And what does your donation form look like? You can have the best social media approach in the world, but a crappy donation form, and you're going to lose people. So once again, please fire it up in the chat and tweet me what you think of some of these donation forms, because I'd love to read those later, @DaveIM on Twitter. Donate. There's a lot of things wrong with this. There's no donation levels. It's just a blank box. Corporate donate on behalf of a company and then comments. What should I comment about? That I'm interested in doing that, or the name of the company? Do you really need a title field? Is that important? Is that something we should even collect anymore? And the colors on this, right? We've got this very weird tan and some blue that's off-centered. We've got something about the Tree of Life Children's Village, but no photos. No tax ID number. There's a lot of things wrong with this, right? And we're going to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly today. So we're getting a little better on this form, right? For some reason, they saw it necessary to say, hey, we're approved by these organizations that most donors who are not in the nonprofit sector have no idea who they are or why they matter. But for this nonprofit, it's important to put those logos up there. They do have donation information. They have amounts. They put their amounts from smallest to largest. Is that good? Is that bad? Should they be reversed? They have a corporate checkbox. They have an anonymous checkbox. This form is missing photos, colors, what's the return on investment. Maybe they could have put a video on here talking about how the money gets spent. But we're getting a little bit better, right? We're not at the ugly anymore. So a little bit better. On this form, we actually have a photo of the kid, right? It says for $25 a month, you can sponsor a child, and it could be this child. And here's a photo of said child. Now, not all of us have kids or sick puppies or people like that to put under donation forms to appeal to folks, right? And not all of us can do that tug on the heartstrings. But the modern donor doesn't want that. The modern donor wants a return on their investment. So this does a great job around, what's the amount? $25 or give what you want, because we're asking directly for $25. And what do we see here for the first time? A recurring gift. How awesome is that? This one's a little complicated. They have a drop down that is like the first day of every month, as long as the day ends in Y and the month ends in Y, right? They have a little complicated system here that could be a little bit easier, but at least they're asking for a reoccurring gift. Corporate, once again, it's not really asking me what the name of my company is and if they match. It's just saying this donation is on behalf of the company. So a little bit better, right? This page, they have great colors. They have kids smiling. They have kids in uniforms that the school that they attend that you're funding, right? I love this form. They have their tax ID number right out front. If I'm a smart donor, I can go and Google that and find out all kinds of things about you. Now this one, they have big amounts, right? They start with $1,000, and then they go to $500, and then they go to $250, and then they go to $100. Is that good? Is that bad? Then they have designation, general support. Is this a restricted gift, which we had a lot of back at the American Cancer Society? Even better on this form, is this a one-time gift or a reoccurring gift? And if you click on reoccurring gift, those options pop up. So very much hiding information that doesn't need to be seen until it needs to be seen. And now we're getting to the cream of the crop, right? So this is a great nonprofit room to read and look at, the bright colors they use, and look at your return on the investment. $50 gets you this. $250 gets you this. $500 gets you this. $2,500 funds 10 years of education. How awesome is that? Is this a one-time gift, a reoccurring gift? This donation is from my company, which will be specified under my name below. How hard is that to type out, right? But everyone else beyond this donation form got it wrong. And finally, we kind of have our best-looking donation form of the day. So not only do we have amazing, beautiful imagery, we have different programs that you can support. So you want to stand for the devastated, stand for the children, stand for the displaced. When you mouse over those, you get a pop-up. And the pop-up explains exactly what you're donating for. So I ask you on social media, will you help stand for the opportunity? And I explain a little bit of it. And you click through. But you don't click through and you close the window and you forget about it, and later you come back and you're like, well, they explain what it is, but I don't remember. And instead of having to hunt through the site, because we all have sites with tons of pages of content that's not exactly relevant, that's piled up over the years of being on the internet, right? You could just hover over and be like, oh yeah, stand for the opportunity. This is what it means. I love their donation buttons, 30, 50, 100, more. How simple is that? Monthly, one time, what day of the month? Anonymous, what comments do you have? If you scroll down, they have amazing social media interactivity with this form. You're able to tweet after you give. You're able to update Facebook. You're able to do a lot of cool things just from this form out into the social media world. So second part of homework, go back, look at your donation form after the call today. How can you simplify it How can you add photos? How can you add donation levels and explain those levels to people, what they get for them? Because that's what the modern donation form should look like. So some of the big players in the space for mobile and social donations, one of them is Pyrex. They just switched their name to Rally. And Pyrex has a great mobile donation system that lets you create a form for people to donate and then put it on any page on your website. And they have a great Facebook plugin as well. Kimbia, Kimbia.com is another one. Kimbia has a great kind of widget for donating is the best way to describe it. So you could have your normal nonprofit website, and on each page have a different donation widget geared to that program or that page. And all of it is controlled in the back end under one system. So you could literally have 5 donation campaigns going all at once on your website and all monitored in the back end. And that's Kimbia.com. And Kimbia is the African word for run. Here's what the Pyrex/Rally Facebook page looks like. So you see here, help Joe Wilson send a message, right? And this is from Joe Wilson's page on Facebook. People can like the donation form. People can tweet it. People can Google Buzz. Even more important, you can hit the Invite My Friends button, and it'll pull up people's addresses on Facebook and invite them to come and support this donation page. And you see, although Facebook isn't structured this way anymore, now all of these donation tabs are kind of buttons to the left. It's under wall, info, give now, photos, things like that. So this is a really cool tool to raise money on Facebook. Kimbia has teamed up with GuideStar. And so now whenever someone's looking you up on GuideStar, they could actually make a donation directly to your organization through Kimbia while they're on GuideStar. So, these people are doing some really cool cutting-edge stuff with donation forms and making it easy for you to use these donation forms. So social is all about, as I said before, having a good ask, a good campaign, explaining what the money's going for, and then driving them to a good donation form. But now let's move beyond donation form. If you guys have seen it, there's a service out there called Help Attack. They're at Help Attack on Twitter if you want to tweet them and ask questions. And they basically let you turn your constituents' social media noise into cash for your nonprofit. So every time I tweet about living in Austin, Texas and getting a breakfast taco, or walking my dog at the Greenbelt, or going to South by Southwest this year, I could be raising funds for my favorite nonprofit. And the way this works is you go to helpattack.com, you sign in with Twitter, or you sign in with Facebook, and you make a pledge. You say, for every time I update Facebook, I want to give 5 cents to my favorite nonprofit. Every time I tweet, I want to give 15 cents to my favorite nonprofit. And that's it. You don't need to use a hashtag. You don't need to talk about the nonprofit. It's just what you would normally do on any given day on social media. It gives you an estimate, and you set a maximum. I don't want to spend more than $30. Go about your business for 30 days, and then you get a pledge form in your email, right? And it says, hey, you tweeted this many times for this much money, and here's what you owe. And they make it fun. It's a game. Help Attack lets you compete against your friends to see who's giving the most, at what time, to what causes, and you get rewards. You get virtual coins from the folks at Help Attack for giving to homelessness issues or animal issues, and you can trade the coins and display them to your friends and family and things like that. So think of turning all this noise that folks do into something good. New things on Help Attack is you can actually pledge on what other people are tweeting. So if you're a fan of Barack Obama, every time Barack tweets, you could give $1 to the Barack Obama campaign. Or if you're a Rick Perry fan, you could give $1 every time Rick Perry tweets to Planned Parenthood, or whatever that cause may be. So there's a lot of interesting opportunities around this to harness social donations for social good. Causes. Another little bit of homework is if you haven't been to causes.com in a while, go back and look. A, they're no longer doing things on MySpace. B, they've settled on Facebook as their main fundraising platform. And C, they have absolutely amazing interface now called Birthday Wishes. So I'm doing one right now for my nonprofit. This is our friend Maddie Grant, who did one for her birthday for my nonprofit, which is Lights Camera Help. And you can see Maddie set up a fundraising page for us. But instead of all that junk and all these hard-to-understand ways to do it, you just go to causes.com, you tell them it's your birthday, what the day is, what the cause is, and how much you want to raise, and it automatically builds this awesome-looking page you see before you. So you set a goal, you get a thermometer. I know you fundraisers out there cannot live without your online thermometers. Your heads would explode. So you get one of those as well. And you also get really cool cutting-edge stuff that nobody else is doing. You get your friends' photos up on the page. Who are the superstars? Who's the first to give? Holly Ross, for those of you familiar with Holly, you send her a tweet. Maddie Grant over at Social Fish, Jeff Hurt, the Sidekicks. Sidekicks email all their friends, share with all their Facebook fans, and do things like that to raise money for this birthday cause. And people get to write their own messages. So you can read Maddie's birthday wish for our nonprofit there. We didn't write that for her. She came up with that all on her own. And the idea is that your constituents don't need shoes or iTunes gift cards or a pair of headphones for their birthday. Instead, they'd like to give it to a deserving nonprofit. And now they have wishes for the holidays, for 5K runs, for bar mitzvahs, for birthdays, anything you can possibly imagine. You can create a wish on causes.com to help people raise money for their favorite causes. So go check that out. Causes just launched projects. So if Causes wishes are outside people, third-party fundraisers, Causes projects are you raising funds for a particular nonprofit. So Causes project here lets you set up a page, upload photos, write some text, and it's basically like Kickstarter, if you guys are familiar with Kickstarter.com. And if you're not, put that in the chat, and we can talk about Kickstarter at the end of the call. But same concept, except done on Facebook. So right now, 160 people have given $5,000 to build this project. Their goal was $4,000, so they've done great. And why did they do great? Because you see, it's easier for people to like it, to share it, to talk about it, to tell their friends on Facebook. People can actually watch commercials to get money. So there's Give a Minute down there constituents can do. And even more importantly, return on investment. $20 provides 25 square feet of steel siding. How awesome is that? That's what the modern donor wants to see. I don't want to just give you $25 or $50 or $200. What do I get for that money? And Causes Projects does a great job around that. So there's a lot of other people in this social giving, social media phase, right? There's MGive for mobile giving. Ed Norton, the popular actor, started CrowdRise for people to come together to crowdfund initiatives. There's Jumo, which was a project kind of out of Facebook, Chris Hughes. It's since folded / been bought out by Good Magazine. There was a lot of promise, I think, in that platform that didn't deliver, and so now it's been folded under Good Magazine. Payment processors. People are trying to get into this game all the time. I'm sure the Visas, the American Expresses, the folks like that out there are getting into social giving, and what is that going to look like, and how do you prepare for that? Snowball is another one. I think it's Snowball. If you just Google that, the word you see right there on the screen, and they're very similar to Help Attack in their model. And then there's the folks at Bellstrike, bellstrike.com. If any of you are brand new to the nonprofit world and don't have a website and don't have a way to donate, you can go onto Bellstrike and instantly create a website with a donation button all tied into one. So think of that person who's just starting out and they don't have money to go build a website or research all these different ways to give money online. Bellstrike solves both of those problems at once, and they're bellstrike.com. So in the social space, we have kind of our newest friends who've joined us, and that's geolocation. That's the Foursquares of the world, the Gowalas of the world, the Scavenger of the world. Can you make money? Can you raise funds off of geolocation? The answer is yes. People are doing it all the time. It involves cause marketing. Have a sponsor donate $1 every time someone checks into their venue and shows it to the manager or the cashier. At a contest, it's a random lottery drawing of everyone who checks in or the person who does the best shot out when they check in. If you guys aren't familiar with geolocation, it's the ability to go to a place and check in and tell your friends where you're at. And these applications make it easy to do that, right? It makes it easy to go to a hotel in New York and check in and tell people, hey, I'm staying at this hotel and I loved it or I hated it. And plus you get all of your friends' tips at those locations. So before you book the hotel, you could go and look it up on Foursquare and read all the reviews and tips about that hotel. And it's growing in popularity, and it's getting more and more acceptable every day, no matter how weird and creepy a lot of us think it is, for people to check in and broadcast their location to their friends. A great example of this is REI, the outdoor clothing and sports company, teamed up with a local nonprofit here in Texas called the Hill Country Conservatory. They said, we care about outdoor spaces, so does the Hill Country Conservatory. So every time you check in at REI this weekend, we'll track it and we'll give $1 to the Hill Country Conservatory. And they literally raised tens of thousands of dollars over one weekend just by telling people to check in when they visited REI stores. And REI increased their foot traffic, and it made them look good. It was purely a cause marketing play. And if you guys are interested in more of this and how cause marketing works and how it could work around this or social media, there's a great book just out by Joe Waters. He's at Joe Waters, W-A-T-E-R-S, on Twitter, and it's Cause Marketing for Dummies. So check that out if you want more information about geolocation and cause marketing. It's a good book. So the last thing we'll talk about today, one of the last things, is mobile giving on the phone, right? Text to give. Does this work? Does this not work? You see here kind of the winding path. Everyone's super hot on text to give. Get up at a concert. Michelle Obama's on TV telling us to text the word Haiti to help out the Red Cross to donate. But there's a lot that goes into that. Your annual revenue has to be at least $500,000 to run a campaign in the U.S. You have to sign up with the Mobile Giving Foundation and the mobile application provider. There's a setup fee of $300 to $500. There's monthly fees. The Mobile Giving Foundation charges you as well because they did all the work to get Sprint, Verizon, AT&T on board. And they're a nonprofit, and they make their money out of fees. And they charge those fees back to you, and you have to charge them back to the people giving you money. You have to pay for a short code. Short codes are just like URLs. Yours may not be taken, but you have to pay for it. The donation amount can only be $5 or $10 in the U.S. In Europe, it could be $75 or $100, but that's not how it works over here. 2% of your audience will actually get their phone out and donate. Only 2% of your audience will get their phones out and actually donate. Then I get a bill, and my bill's high this month. I'm going to take your donation off my bill. And the credit card, the phone company is not going to argue with that. They value me as a customer. God knows I'm paying them enough on my cell phone bill. They're happy to take that off a month to keep me as a customer. And then after all that money is gone, you pay 8% of the donation to the various providers. folks like that, the cell phone companies, your organization gets the rest of that money. And that could take 2 to 3 months. So text to give, not as exciting as you think it is. So finally, what does the future look like? That's what we wrote the book on. We did a lot of research about trends and giving in the United States and all across the world. And what does the future of giving look like? We write about 5 different ones in the book. Today we're just going to cover a couple of those because of time. The future is all about social gaming and rewards. Go look at what that 16-year-old kid in your neighborhood is playing, or your own kids at home. They're absolutely into Xbox and PlayStation and being rewarded for their activity. They beat a level, they get points. They defeat a character, they get more points. And they can trade those points in to earn other in-game rewards. Everyone gets a trophy at T-ball. We're raising a culture of people who are based on gaming, are based on competition, and are into it and want to be rewarded for that. So what do we do to react to those people who become our donors in the next 5 years? We have to figure out smart ways to involve social gaming and rewards-based outcomes for these folks. One way of doing that is partnering. None of us should go out and build our own Farmville about our nonprofit on Facebook and expect people to play it and have fun. We shouldn't give out karma points when people donate on our website, but we should make it fun and entertaining for them to interact with us and donate. Folks at Zynga did that. Water.org went out and said, for World Water Day, we'd like to have a water buffalo as a virtual in-game item, right? Not a real-life water buffalo, for those of you who this sounds bad, right? They're not shipping an animal across the country. Instead, they have a virtual item in a virtual game. And on World Water Day, if you bought the water buffalo, you got extra points, right? Your farm grew twice as fast that day. It was tied to in-game, in-world results. And hundreds of thousands of people bought this in-game water buffalo. And it raised them hundreds of thousands of real-world dollars for a virtual in-game program. Zynga's partnered up with a lot of people, like the folks at water.org. They recently partnered up with the World Food Program to do a special type of bean you could buy on World Hunger Day in Farmville. And you planted that bean, you got extra points, harvested your crops faster, however in-game mechanics work. So how can nonprofits get into the gaming space? And you all can. It doesn't matter if you're big or small. If you're small, who's in your town that's working on games? I'm sure there's game developers in your town that would love to sit down over coffee and talk to you about how your nonprofit could somehow be involved in their social game. There's over 75 million people who play Farmville every day in the United States. Donating with ease. We've looked at donation forms. We've seen how crazy they can get, how nice they can get. But here's what the donation form of the future looks like. First name and last name all in one field. Yes, the technology will be there to do that. Field number 2 is what's my payment phrase. My payment phrase is green Chinese plant. And that means that I want to use my Visa and that my credit card code is this, that my number is that. It means a whole host of things that are stored in the cloud. My next option on that donation form is a bit of personal information to prove who I am. My mother's maiden name, the name of my first pet, the name of the street that I lived when I was growing up, and the 4th field is donation amount, and that's it. Everything else is stored in the cloud ahead of time with Visa, Discover Card, Amazon, PayPal, whoever is out there. And yes, you'll have access to that, nonprofits. You won't have to ask them their T-shirt size, and if they want to subscribe to your monthly e-newsletter, that's already stored in the cloud ahead of them. And this is what the world looks like in 2016 for both of these, and that's what we write about in the book, is what social media and fundraising of the future looks like in 2016. So I'll leave you with this last little slide before we get into questions and answers. and I'll just let you guys read it and talk about it in the chat and tweet me if you enjoy it. I won't explain it to you guys. I will just explain to say that you can mess up. Social media is new and growing and changing and is an amazing opportunity for you to talk to people in their 30s, their 20s, their 40s, even their 50s about what you do and how you do it. But you will mess up. Sometimes, you'll send out the wrong link. You'll, put a poster up that has the wrong QR code to your event and have to reprint it, but it's okay. Social media affords you the ability to mess up and get back on the bike and keep writing. So like I said, my name's David Neff. The book is The Future of Nonprofits, Innovate and Thrive in the Digital Age. At DaveIM on Twitter. The Future of NPOS is the hashtag. Randy Moss is my co-author. He's at Randall C. And I wanted to take it open and hand it back over to my amazing hosts at Vertical Response to help us go through questions and answers and things like that. And if you're too shy to ask a question, feel free to tweet it at me later. I'm okay with that as well.
Thanks, David. That was great.